All right, this is lesson 2.3 out of the Ratios, Rates, and Statistics book. In my class, this lesson is on page 110, and lesson 2.3 is titled Rates and Unit Rates. And there's a difference between rates and unit rates, and that's what we'll be talking about during this lesson. All right, so warm up for this one. Warm up is convert each fraction to a decimal, and the first one I want converted is 1/4. And the second one is 6 2/5. And then the next one is write each decimal as a fraction. Write each decimal as a fraction. And that's number 3. And the decimal is 75 hundredths. And number 4, the decimal, the decimal is 3 5/10. All right, that should be pretty easy. Okay, so our I can statement for this lesson. What we will be learning is I can convert rates to unit rates. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and use our dark green, underline that, and start setting up our notes. So the only one I have is a usual vocabulary one, and I want it in the usual upper left spot. So, come on, glue. Did I leave it open? All right. So it will go in its usual spot, and then we'll talk about the differences between rates and unit rates. All right, press it, hold for a second, and yellow highlighter highlights vocabulary, and pink highlights our vocabulary. All right, so a rate. What is a rate? A rate is a ratio of two numbers that have different units. So we're comparing miles to gallon, or dollars to items, or minutes to hours, those kinds of things. All right. Now the unit rate, think of the word unit as meaning one. A unit rate is a rate that can be written as a fraction with a denominator of 1. That's not really a very good description, so let me try and describe it to you with an example. All right, so let's say you're at the grocery store, and it says that you can get 10 packages of Top Ramen for $4. All right, that's a rate. But what if you wanted to know what just one package costs? That would be your unit rate. And you can do the math to figure out, well, if 10 packages cost $4, then I can figure out what one package costs. And that's what we'll be doing. We'll be bringing those kinds of things down to a unit rate, a rate of 1, unit meaning 1. So we can figure out if it's this much in my rate, well, how much would it be if it was only 1? And that's what they mean by that 1 in the denominator. And you'll see it in our examples. Now, the good to know here talks about how Unit rates can also be written as a single number using the word per or using a fraction bar to explain the units. All this means is there are a few different ways to write unit rates. So the one we will use most often is this one here. So if you were downloading some songs and they were 25 cents per song, this little fraction bar literally means per. All right, so 25 cents per song. Or we could write it here in words, 25 cents per song. But also this little slash bar also means per. So we could also write it as 25 cents per song. So there's 3 different ways we could write it, but they all mean the same thing and we say them all the same way. They all 3 mean 25 cents per song. All right, but this fraction deal is the way we will write it in our lessons because it makes it easiest for doing the conversions that we're going to be doing. Okay, all right, so let's start. Finding the unit rate. So up here I'm going to write finding the unit rate. Okay, and we're going to write some steps for finding the unit rate. Let me tell you, this really isn't very difficult because if you remember writing equivalent fractions, you've got a fraction and now you're going to write an equivalent fraction by either multiplying top and bottom by the same number or dividing top and bottom by the same number. This is the same thing, just with labels. All right, so step 1. Step 1 is you will rewrite fraction with a denominator of 1. And again, this is going to make more sense when you see it in examples. All right, and number 2, step 2, is, let's see, let's write, how did you get the first denominator to a 1? Okay, think again of making equivalent fractions. Okay, how'd you do that? That's step 2. And then step 3, and you all know this one well, what you do to the bottom, bet you can finish this, you do to the top. Okay? All right, so that's the rules for making it work. Now, let's see it in action. All right, so over here, I'm going to write find the unit rate. That's our instructions, okay? All right, so let's say we have 30 miles over 3 hours. Remember that fraction bar means per. So 30 miles per 3 hours. All right. You want to know the unit rate is, so that means you want to know how many miles per 1 hour. The unit rate is always going to have a denominator of 1 with the same label as this. So step 1 is to rewrite the fraction with a denominator of 1. So I'm going to rewrite it as 1 hour. All right? Because that makes it a unit meaning 1, a unit rate, 1 hour. All right, so step 2 says, well, how did I get that first denominator to a 1? That means this 3 here, how did I get it to a 1? Well, how do you get 3 into a 1. You divide it by itself, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay? And then the rule says what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So if I divided the bottom by 3, then I have to divide the top by 3 as well. And 30 divided by 3 is 10. Don't forget to carry over the label. And so 10 miles, okay? And so this was my rate, and now with the 1 in the denominator, this is my unit rate. I found the unit rate for this. So if 30 miles, if it's 30 miles per every 3 hours, then it's 10 miles per every 1 hour. That's my unit rate. All right? That's all 3 steps. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Let's say I have something that costs $1.80. And that something is some cups. So I have 6 cups. And they cost $1.80. And I want to know what just one of those cups costs. That's my unit rate. 1 cup. Right? Well, what did I do to get this 6 to a 1? I divided by 6. And what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. Divided by 6. 6 goes into 18 3 times, so I know my answer. I'm dealing with money here, so I get my label there, is 0.30. That means 30 cents. So I know if 6 cups cost $1.80, just 1 cup costs 30 cents. Okay? All right, so that's how that's done when they give you the rate and you have to find the unit rate. Now, we're also going to be doing it where we have word problems, and you have to pull out the rate and then find the unit rate. And they're not really all that difficult. I know sometimes word problems can be, but these really aren't that bad. All right, so let's start it out here. A t-shirt shop makes 135 t-shirts every 15 minutes. Oops, minutes. There we go. All right, how many do they make per minute? Okay, that's the question. All right, the rate is what we know they do. The rate, okay? So the rate is going to be, get that in frame? Okay, there we go. The rate is going to be 135 shirts. Always there are labels. Always. 135 shirts per, that's the fraction bar, 15 minutes. All right. Now we got to figure out what's the unit rate in order to figure out how many they make per minute. Per minute means every 1 minute. So that's the unit rate. So 1 minute is our unit rate, right? Our step 1 is turn that into the denominator 1. Okay, then we've got to figure out, well, what did we do to get the 15 to the 1? Well, of course, we divided by 15. And what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So we divide that by 15. And 15 goes into 135 9 times. So 9 shirts. So the unit rate for that is they can make 9 shirts every minute. Now, this is a word problem, so we need a sentence that answers the question. How many do they make per minute? All right. The answer is they make 9 t-shirts per minute. All right. That's our answer. They make 9 t-shirts per minute. All right, these are the practice problems for lesson 2.3. The first 4, I don't know if I can get them all in frame. Oh, yeah, I can. Yeah, okay, good. I'll do that way. All right, the first 4 are straight find the unit rate problems. And then the last one is a word problem where you need to set up the rate and then find the unit rate. And don't forget, you need a answer sentence there. Okay, let's see how these work. All right, so I have 96 words per 4 minutes. Step 1 is to set this up as 1 unit, so 1 minute instead of 4. Then I got to figure out, well, what do I do to get 4 to a 1? Of course, I divide it by 4. Then I have to do the same up here. I have to divide 96 by 4. And let's see, that goes in 24 times. So 24 words per each minute is the unit rate. All right, now, next one. I have 12 days for 2 jobs. Well, I want to know how many days it'll take for just 1 job. I had to divide that by 2 to get to 1. What I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So it's 6 days per 1 job. Always write down the unit labels here. Don't shortcut on that. All right, number 3. I have 24 ounces per 1.5 servings. All right, so I want that to be just 1 serving. How much is it for just 1 serving? Well, to get 1.5 to 1, sometimes students just go nuts as soon as they see this decimal, but it's the same thing. Any number divided by itself is going to give you 1. So I'm going to divide this by 1 5/10, 1.1, to get to my 1. What I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. And 24 divided by 1.5, hold on, let me think, is 16 ounces. Okay, so 1 serving is 16 ounces, 1.5 serving is 24 ounces. That's my unit rate. All right, number 4 is 15 kilometers to 5 hours. Well, how many for 1 hour? All right, well, I have to divide this by 5 to get the 5 to a 1. What I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. And 5 goes into 15 3 times. So that's 3 kilometers to 1 hour. All right, okay, and the last one was our word problem. So Jose spent $36 for 4 movie tickets. Find the price per ticket. Well, we need to set up his rate that he had to begin with. So that was $36 per 4 tickets. All right, and so what do we have to do to get it to 1 ticket? 1 ticket. So 1 ticket, I've got to get the 4 to a 1. That means I'm dividing by 4. And what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. That's dividing by 4. And I know that 4 goes into 36 9 times. This is a $ here, right? So my unit rate is $9 for 1 ticket. Okay, but this is a word problem. So now I need to answer. It says find the price per ticket. Jose paid $9 per ticket. And that would be my answer to that problem. Okay, so that's your practice problems. Let's take a look at the worksheet and see what it looks like. Worksheet. Okay, so the whole top part of it is just regular find the unit rates, okay? So the same thing we did in your notes in the first examples. Equal sign, 1 with the unit label in the denominator. Figure out what you had to do to get from this number to that number. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Don't forget your unit labels. That's it. 10, 11, 12, and 13 are ones like I did in the practice problems there, and we did one in the notes as well. So you've got to be able to pull out what is the rate, set that up, then equal sign, set up the unit rate, and don't forget your answer sentence for each one of those. All right, so that leaves us with your exit ticket for lesson 2.3. And this is just for extra practice, help you feel confident that you've got this down. I don't give you the answers or tell you how to do them. All right, so that is lesson 2.3 out of the Ratios, Rates, and Statistics book. Remember, the only way to learn math is to do math, and mistakes are proof that you're learning.